So, welcome back to another exciting episode of Beer Bros. We have a special treat for you today. We have the TABC. Now, what you're thinking?
Well, most people who are outside of Texas wouldn't think what you're thinking, so it doesn't matter.
Well, like Virginia has like the ABC, the Alcoholic Beverage Commission. I'm sure it's similar in other states, but the TABC is traditionally Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission, but this time it's the
Texas Aggieland Brew Club.
Brew Club, yes. We met some great people. Keith has been part of the Brew Club for a few months now.
A while, since the summer.
Since the summer, yeah. And you've probably learned a lot. This is the first time I've been met the TABC, the Texas Aggie Brew Club, and
Aggieland.
Texas Aggieland Brew Club, sorry. And it was interesting. It was just a group of people, normal people, joining up, bringing their craft brew, bringing some different craft beers, and then we learned. It was like there was a small presentation by one of the members about what was it this past time? What did we learn? It was about barley and the wheat and how
roasting
roasting wheat and how it germinates and how they can do different processes and everything. It was enlightening experience.
Reaction to release sugar. So you start getting those simpler monosaccharides. And then what they do is once that happens, then they begin to increase the temperature from there up. And so what you've done now is you've created some sugars there, and now you're heating it up above that point. And so you're getting caramelization.
So actually it was a Learn to Homebrew day. A few years back, Veronica, my fiance, and I had started making wines. She just had this idea, she wanted to make wines, and she bought a book on how to make wild wines. And so we started making wines, and then we had heard somehow about this Learn to Homebrew day that was going on at the Deutsch Cafe. And so we went there, and we went to check it out, and we brought some of our first batch of homemade wine, and we got to see all these other people making beer and all that. And so from there we learned about the Homebrew Club, and we went from making wines, she kept making wines, and I started making beers. And so we kind of got into the Homebrew Club and homebrewing from that, basically learned a homebrew day.
I actually found the group through Dan at work. He was the one that told me that there was a local homebrew group, and pointed me to the Facebook page. I looked them up, find out when their meetings working. I think my first meeting I came to was the December meeting of last year, before I ever started brewing. So, yeah.
They were doing a brew-in essentially about 5 years ago, and there were several people brewing in somebody's front yard basically. And I was planning on brewing pretty soon anyway, so I said, well, I'll go inside and brew on site there and check these people out. And discovered that, hey, we got a club here and it's pretty cool.
When I first started drinking beer, the first thing I enjoyed was a Blue Moon. It was the honeymoon seasonal. And from there I started to enjoy some like Shiner Bock, some of the more easily available beers. And I do remember the first time I had a Guinness. It was like life-changing. Dark beer, smooth, creamy, delicious. I loved it, so I was hooked.
I hadn't really been a beer drinker for a long time. I was much more cocktails and that sort of thing when I went out. But I learned that it was because I hadn't had good beer yet, and so I started drinking, kind of getting into craft beer a little bit, and then I went to Germany and I lived in Germany for a while, and that just expanded everything, and I really got into beer from that point on.
I was kind of in with a group of friends who were what you'd call beer snobs. So when I got started drinking beer myself, I didn't really want to drink anything that ended in light. I appreciated finer beers, but I didn't know anything about making them. Well, an immediate benefit is just being able to try some amazing things and meet some cool people. It's good to bounce ideas off other people and learn from their trial and error. And just having a group of people you can come together with and really talk details about the taste and the aroma. A lot of times you go out with your friends and they're not really interested in all the little minutiae of a beer, you know. But with a group like this, you can really delve into it.
You know, groups like this are perfect for learning things. I've actually learned quite a bit in the past, 11 months that I've been coming to meetings. So, on top of, spending 6 months researching.
It's definitely helped me have the courage to come up with new, crazy ideas. I don't know if I necessarily would have had the confidence to come up with new recipes and that sort of thing if I wasn't in a homebrew club. I probably would have just bought recipes and followed them. But having been here and been with other people and seen where they just get creative and throw whatever they got into a batch and just see what happens, that sort of gave me the courage to just try new, interesting things. And that's definitely the kind of beers I prefer making now. Not sort of a typical style, but take a style and throw something weird on top of it.
I like that you can try a lot of really different, experimental things that you're not going to find on the market easily. And I also like how at a meeting people will come together and talk and have these ideas, and then, in a couple months, based on what people talked about at one meeting, they're going to have some new brew they came up with that's, something you'd never think of or something you'd never find on the market.
Everyone just comes and brings beers that they like and they want to share with other people, and it's a good way to sort of develop your palate and pick out interesting flavors in beers, and then to get tips from other people or to make connections to borrow equipment. So I know, like, starting out, you can get a basic setup going for about $100 to get your first homebrew batch going. But you'll probably want to start expanding from there and upgrading your equipment. And so getting tips on what's worth buying and what's not is definitely very helpful at a homebrew club meeting.
Plus, find a well-established group, and that is just a fountain of information. I brew a lot of stouts, darker beers. I like darker beers. But I also like wheat beers. So I've done a coffee stout. I've done Hefeweizen, Bavarian Hefeweizen. I've done, let's see, the Graf, and then the eggnog stout that I've done. So, I plan on doing probably a porter as my next batch. Gotcha. Still a darker beer, but not as heavy as a stout.
So one of my favorites that we've done was actually a collaboration between my neighbor and I. I made marshmallow Hefeweizen, and he made a double chocolate stout, or a double chocolate Bach. And so we mixed the chocolate Bach and the marshmallow Hefeweizen together, along with a cream ale, and basically made s'mores beer. And it was very well received, and one of our more successful attempts at a crazy beer. But I've made mixed Earl Grey with a fifth beer. I called it Earl White. That was a fun one to do. Or the ciders. I have another friend of mine who really likes ciders, and so every year we do, around fall time when all the ciders are out at the grocery store, we do a collaboration. So last year was a cinnamon whiskey cider, which was really good, and now this year we're going to do a caramel apple cider.
Well, first you're going to want to smell it. You got to get your nose really deep in, get the aroma. All right, we've got the St. Arnold Pumpkinator from 2012. And I don't like too much head, so I like to pour it to the side, not the German way. Swirl it around, give it a good smell. Sometimes I like to smell it a couple times because as it heats up, the smell's going to change a little bit. I know you're supposed to take a tiny sip and swirl it around in your mouth, but sometimes it's hard to and it smells really good. You want to try and get it to touch lots of different parts of your tongue too, so you'll get a better profile on it when you do that.
honestly, research is the best thing you can do. Best thing you could really do is do as much research as possible. Look at all the different methods. Read. I mean, I bought a copy of How to Brew by John Palmer. Probably one of the best books I've read.
It's probably easier than you think, and there's several ways to go about it. There's not really anything wrong, and that even when you do screw up, you usually end up with a beer that still tastes good, even if it's not exactly what you were planning for.
There's a lot of science behind it. A lot of science, and I don't understand half of it. I mean, Doug over there talking about, the different stuff in the malting process. I'm like, it's over my head. But I'm still learning. I'm still learning that part too. So I understand the different temperatures as far as mashing. Will produce fermentable, non-fermentable sugars, or simple sugars, complex sugars. The first sugars that get produced in the mashing process are going to be complex sugars. And then as the enzymes continue working, they break those down into simple sugars. So mashing at a lower temperature will get you, a more fermentable wort. Mashing at a higher temperature will give you a sweeter wort that's non-fermentable. It just depends on, of course, the recipe that you're looking for. Whether you want it to have a residual sweetness to it, or whether you want to really dry out. Like the Bière de Garde, that French Bière de Garde is really dry. That would be mashed up. And a lot of that's just stuff you kind of have to learn through either research or.
Like the Bière de Garde that I'm truly in love with, I'm glad to try it, experience it.
Well, yeah, they say that's an acquired taste. Cheese is a lot of cheeses are acquired taste. And beer, I think, is an acquired taste.